Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. It's John Pollock with you, and we've got all of today's headlines in mixed martial arts, and we'll break them down with John Ramdeen. Anthony Pettis is hoping for a busy 2015. Rory MacDonald is going to have to play the waiting game, and we have exclusive comments from Wanderlei Silva. Wanderlei Silva was in Toronto this week, and our cameras caught up with Silva and asked him about the UFC's recent Reebok deal that was announced and the impact it's going to have on fighters beginning next year.
Right now, what the guys talking gonna be good, but I wanted to see the truth because I saw the heavyweight guy lost like 6 sponsors. The guys don't pay a lot of money to the fighters, and now start to take off the sponsors. Now so the guy's gonna send all the Reebok money to the fighters. Can be good, but I don't know what is the truth. But I hope the guys explain all what has happened and make this clean to the fighters.
It was reported by Ariel Helwani on UFC Tonight that Rory MacDonald had been notified by UFC officials that he won't be receiving the next welterweight title fight. It was after MacDonald stopped Tarek Saffiedine back in October that UFC President Dana White spoke to the Canadian press and stated that MacDonald would get the title fight after 3 consecutive wins in 2014. And it was also reported on UFC Tonight that lightweight champion Anthony Pettis is hoping for a much busier year in 2015. Pettis is looking to fight again in March or April and then be available for July and get a 3rd fight in before the end of the year. Pettis returned to action after 16 months on the sidelines at UFC 181, where he submitted Gilbert Melendez and made the first defense of his championship. And I'm here with John Ramdeen to chat all the news of the day. Did you hear that Sony has pulled the interview? What a joke.
Well, who knows?
There goes my Christmas Day plans.
Well, I'm sure you'll be able to find it somehow.
Oh, I imagine there'll be another Sony leak next year. Rory MacDonald, we had that news come out. He's not getting a title fight. Are you meaning to tell me the UFC told a fighter that they are going to get the next title fight, and now they are rescinding that title opportunity?
Stop the presses. What a shocker. No, it's not a shocker at all. I have to just look at history. But we all know, we all are confident that Rory MacDonald will eventually get a shot at the welterweight championship of the world. This comes down to business. And
what fight do you think makes more sense business-wise right now? The trilogy fight?
I would imagine that's the fight that makes most sense in the entire scheme of the 170-pound division. Johnny Hendricks was the champion. He fought Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler is now the champion. You have the 3rd fight. It only makes sense considering the fact the first fight was one of the best fights of the year. I think you go with that fight. It's all about storylines, and the UFC needs to do what they need to do to create interest, and I think this fight has more interest than a rematch with Robbie Lawler and Rory MacDonald right now.
Do you think Rory will now have to take a fight in the meantime, beforehand?
Yeah, Rory MacDonald, he firmly believes that he is the best. Now that George is gone from mixed martial arts, he's the #1 guy in the 170-pound division. He believes it in his mind, and that means he believes that he could beat anybody in the welterweight division. So until I get that title shot, I'm here to make money, line him up, I'm going to knock him down. Who would not want to see Hector Lombard versus Rory MacDonald right now?
And Hector Lombard's going to fight January 3rd, so that could very well, if he wins that fight, sets up Rory MacDonald and Hector Lombard, which is a very interesting fight. But for Rory MacDonald, I mean, here was a guy that was banking on this being his next fight would be for the championship. And now, if you're facing Hector Lombard, that's a hell of a task for Rory MacDonald at this point. And how fast Robbie Lawler is going to be willing to come back. He's saying, if they call me, I'll come back. But this guy's just gone through 4 fights this year, 4 big training camps. He needs a bit of a break. I would not be rushing this guy back to fight in March or April.
I agree, but I think when you look at Robbie Lawler, I think he's 30 or 31 right now. The idea is to try to go out and make as much money as humanly possible in the last number of years of your career, because we all know it could be over next week, next year. These guys go through such rigorous training camps that you're bound to get hurt. I mean, we've heard fighters over the years, including Josh Thompson, say no fighter goes into a fight 100%. That means you're getting injured during training camp, which means you never know. Look at Anthony Pettis. Look at Dominic Cruz. They go through the regular training camp. Something happens, and you never know what pops, what you get an ACL, MCL injury, and your career's done.
Yeah, Anthony Pettis is saying he'd like to get 3 fights in, which sounds great on paper if you can do it. But I think what we've really learned this year, you go back even to 2012, which was another year where they really got hit injury-wise, is that when you're training for 5-round main events, it's a hell of a lot on your body. And I don't know if, 3 fights is realistic. Those days of John Jones fighting 4 times in 1 year, I just don't know how realistic that is for a number of these guys who they want longevity here and training all year long at the highest level for those 5-round fights. Look at the amount of title fights we got this year.
Yeah,
it was a very small amount in comparison.
I agree, but you look right now, especially a guy like Anthony Pettis and the UFC schedule for 2015. When you look at it from a fighter's perspective, it's like, wait, there's a lot of opportunity here for me to go out and make some money because of the UFC's obligations, whether it be with Fox or pay-per-view or Global in Brazil. They have so many shows that a fighter can go out and fight 3 or 4 times in a year.
Well, the UFC would have them fight as many times as possible.
Exactly.
I'm thinking for the fighter's point of view, they need that guy to me, that Robbie Lawler, if he's just dead set on fighting, if I'm ATT, I'm saying, listen, you've just won the title.
Yeah.
We don't want to send you out there 80% and then the title's gone.
That's
and
true.
You don't even defend it once.
That's true.
We got to look out for the fighter here.
Yeah, and the fighters are like, especially a guy like Anthony Pettis, who is really on the cusp of being a huge superstar. The more this guy is visible to the mainstream audience, the casual fans, the bigger star he's going to be. This guy jumps off cages and kicks guys in the head. He submits Gilbert Melendez, something nobody else has done in the past, stopping Ben Henderson. This guy is an anomaly in mixed martial arts, and right now for him to get in there and perform as much as he possibly can, I think that will catapult him to be the number 2, number 3, maybe number 1 pound-for-pound guy in the world, which would bring a lot of dollars his way.
Now let's quickly touch upon, we heard from Vanderlei Silva there. He had a tumultuous year in 2014. What do you think is his next course of action? He's under contract to the UFC. Nevada has said, we are not going to license you. What is this guy's next move, if there is one?
Right now, he's got his name. So I've talked to Vanderlei in the past, and he says, fortunately for me, because of my time in Pride and the UFC, I can go pretty much anywhere in the world and be able to do seminars and fan appearances and this and that. So I think Vanderlei Silva, he's okay. A very different scenario in comparison to the majority of fighters competing at the highest level.
All right, there you go. He's John Ramdeen. We have more coming your way on Fight News Now Extra. Stay tuned.